Alright, so once again I'm live. My man Chak daggone came in once again night daggone didn't get to talk about everything last night, so we're gonna talk about it tonight. What's going on, brother? Chak, what's up, man? Well, he'll get to it. Well, anyway, like I said, a lot of things going on. Got stuff going on in the World Economic Forum. You got this, you got that. Oh, more clown shows, as they would say. So, yeah, what it is. Yo, what's up?
Peace. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear what's going on, brother.
Okay. All right, man. Sitting back, checking out a couple of videos. What's up with it?
Man, a lot of stuff going on, brother.
Oh, yeah? What you got? What you got on the menu?
What happened at the World Economic Forum? As a matter of fact, let me get to it. They're getting ready for disease X. Now, X mean unknown, so I'm still trying to find out how they getting away with this one, but Mm-hmm.
Talk to me.
Let's see. Oh, here it is. Let's talk about those guys, man. The World Economic Forum. Let's talk about them. On the Copyright Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, this is fair use of laws purposes only. This is by no means to infringe. All right, listen closely.
Delegates gathering in Davos for the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum are faced with a daunting range of global challenges. Worsening conflicts, worsening climate change, a weak global economy, fears over artificial intelligence, attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. In its report published Wednesday, the summit organizers said disinformation is the biggest short-term risk.
The potential impact on elections worldwide over the next 2 years is significant, and that could lead to elected governments' legitimacy being put in question. And this, in turn, could, of course, threaten democratic processes, lead to further social polarization, riots, strikes, or even intrastate violence.
The summit takes place against the backdrop of two major wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Among those due in Davos are the Israeli President Isaac Herzog, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Chinese Premier Li Qiang, and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Alongside political leaders will be hundreds of the world's most powerful chief executives. Critics say their wealth has increased while billions are getting poorer.
Across the world, people are feeling extraordinary hardship. And at the same time, there's a few sprinting off at the very top into the distance, and some of them will be in Davos. And it is, yes, a space for dialogue, for important discussions, even for holding political and business leaders to account. It's why organizations like Oxfam take part. But it's also not an international democratic space in which, transparent, accountable decisions are being made.
Summit organizers say it's vital to bring together political and business leaders to find solutions to the world's myriad challenges. Henry Ridgwell, VOA News, London.
Transfer a self-directed individual brokerage account over to Robinhood and receive a one-time match bonus of 1%. The larger the transfer, the larger the match. You transfer, we match. Offer ends January 31st.
Sadia, thank you so much for joining us. So you've just really...
All right, let's start right there. All right, man, what do you think, man? What do you think, man? What do you think, man? They say misinformation is their biggest risk right now.
Really? Damn.
What do you think about that, man? What do you think about that, man? Ain't that crazy?
Yeah. I mean, it just show you the extreme that these individuals are going to, man. The extreme.
They are extreme, aren't they, brother?
No, that's really extreme, dude. That's man. We got to call it. We got to call it tyranny, Nick. Huh? We got to call it. I mean, what else can you call it? You can't tiptoe with it no more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What authority? They gave themselves their own authority. What authority are they? You know what I'm saying?
Yep. You're right. Let's hear this part though.
Release a global risk report for 2024. I have to say, it doesn't look like a happy reading. People are worried. You did shorter term, 2 years, what they worry about in 10 years. What's the most surprising thing?
So in the 2-year time frame, mis and disinformation, #1 risk. So we put together the views of 1,500 experts, and that's what they're most worried about. Very closely followed by extreme weather, societal polarization, inflation. These are some of the topics that are top of mind. But 10 years out, 4 top risks all about the environment, including for the first time crossing tipping points for the Earth systems. That's something that is top of mind. And I think the predictions that could happen in 10 years and how severe that could be deeply concerning.
Disinformation, fake news is extremely worrying in an election year. We have a large percentage of world GDP actually going to the polls this year. How worried are you about the US election?
I mean, depending on how you count it, major economies with large populations, India, the US, are going into these elections. And what we found is that at each country level, in addition to the global risk around mis and disinformation, it's usually ranked very high among the top 5 risks around the world, as is concerns about an economic downturn. So what we're thinking is when these two things come together, the economic hardship being faced by many people and the rise of synthetic content, combined with going into an election year where people get to make decisions about who's going to be leading them, that together can be a very potent mix. And in particular, if some of those views start spilling over into very different perceptions of reality when it comes to health, when it comes to what people are thinking about education, what people think about specific people, who then becomes the owner of the truth.
Yeah, and again, do you have a breakdown of actually this misinformation? Is it state actors? I know Russia has been involved in the past in US elections.
So we're seeing a concern that this could become much more pervasive. To some extent, it's almost easier to track some of that state-sponsored disinformation and misinformation, but now at some point that starts spilling over and it becomes very difficult to track, especially without tracking systems, watermarking systems, and especially without the public being well educated about the risks of synthetic content, and especially when that is fake news.
Does that have a clear impact on the economy, as I guess chief executives don't want to spend because they don't know what pans out in the next 12 months?
So there's a lot of economic uncertainty. We're seeing a risk of the lack of economic opportunity. We're seeing inflation in the top 10. We're seeing a lot of concerns around what exactly typically happens. And that's because of two different situations. One is, of course, there's continues to be uncertainty as to what the policy outlook will be. Yes, we are starting to tend towards a softer landing, but at the same time, I think there are new pressures coming in, supply side pressures that are coming in. There's geopolitical risks out there, and that may change what happens over the course of the coming year. And then there's a longer term economic risk, and that has a lot more to do with the divergence between developed and developing economies, and that also has a lot to do with the divergence between high-income people and low-income people across all countries. And that divergence, combined with the existing social polarization together, can then create additional economic uncertainty.
This is a very gloomy outlook for 2024. Is it even more gloomy than what we had last year, where we thought that higher interest rates could actually crush economies and companies?
Last year, we had two sets of extremes. So we had people that were in a very negative camp, in a very positive camp, but over time, those two extremes were converging and their outlook for the 10 years was much more positive. This year, it's deeply concerning. We have about 60% of people that already believe that we're on the precipice of some form of catastrophic risk, and that is going to increase even more in the 10-year time frame. Sorry, from 30% to 60% when it comes to catastrophic risk over the next 10 years. So that means that the outlook has shifted deeply towards a darker side over the next 10 years.
I know a lot of people that read this report and saying it means I need to take more action. Is there a real danger that because there's a difference between the shorter term risk, which is misinformation, the longer term risk, climate change, and the shifting of the world, that they don't take the longer term actions? I'm talking about chief executives and world leaders.
Absolutely. So this is one of the greatest concerns coming out. What is the space for action? Because we're looking at currently a very complex picture, a lot of here and now crises. We're looking at some of those crises becoming deeper over the next 2 years. And then 10 years out, we've got a completely different set of crises. So for example, something like the adverse impact of artificial intelligence, a very low risk at the present time. In the 2-year time frame, it's down the 26th spot. It jumps up into the top 10 over the course of the 10 years. Are we prepared enough about things like climate, about the adverse impact of new technologies over the 10-year time frame? Are we taking those actions now? And I think that's something that the responders are very concerned about.
And Sadia, how much is it also fear of the unknown? So you don't know the outcome of elections. You don't know exactly how much misinformation there is out there, and you certainly don't know what AI ends up being.
Some of this is about that lack of certainty around what's coming up, but I think it's also about that overall structural shift that's taking place. So we know that Earth systems are changing because of climate change. We know political structures are changing. We know that the underlying forces of the economy are starting to change and societies are starting to become more fragmented. And at the same time, we know that technology is moving forward at a pace that is completely unprecedented. And this year, that's the background we used, that everybody is now aware of some of these structural shifts that are taking place. And in the midst of that, to have additional shocks and to have decision-making structures which are maybe not quite ready to handle this level of change, that together is what's creating this outlook.
Any optimism for 2024?
So I think there's always the flip side of this, right? So can we convert some of the efforts that need to happen around addressing climate change? Can those become a new source of green growth that ends up lifting living standards? Can we convert some of these technologies, which, yes, carry risk, but also carry massive opportunities for making education, health, and social services so much better than they have been in the past? It's the flip side of all of this that I think can lead to a lot more positive. It's really about how we choose to take actions today.
What are you most looking forward to next week at the World Economic Forum?
Well, we're going to be addressing a lot of what is happening here in terms of the global risks, and we'll be looking at what those solution spaces are, because there are solution spaces, right? So exactly what creates some of those risks, we can come together around it, we can create cooperation. And one of the things we examined this year is, what's the space for sort of a minimum viable cooperation? How is it that we can start addressing some of these things? Because some of the areas that are within these risks, actions can be taken by national actors, by individuals. It doesn't necessarily require waiting for a very large-scale cooperation to come together. And I think that does need to happen, because we need some breakthrough endeavors. We need some solutions to be built between coalitions of the willing. And that's what we'll be working towards in Davos.
Sadia, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Well. Ain't that something, man? Dang, Shaq, they kind of lay it out for you. Let's get the daggone. Let's get the clown show started.
Yep. Lights, camera, action. Mm-hmm.
All right, now look.
Yep.
Here we go. I got one more big one for you. Then I'm gonna start getting to a lot of other stuff. Pandemic 2.0. That's what they calling this, okay?
Have we learned nothing from the coronavirus pandemic? New reporting suggests Chinese laboratories just can't help themselves. According to the Daily Mail, Chinese scientists have reportedly developed a mutant coronavirus strain that attacks the brain and has a 100% kill rate in mice. Worse, they admit there's a risk it could spill over to humans. The virus is a modified version of a strain found in pangolins and was tested on mice, expressing a protein found in humans to test that the disease might impact people. Reportedly, all mice infected with the virus died between 7 and 8 days after being infected, with symptoms including their eyes turning completely white, rapid weight loss, and fatigue. Researchers additionally found significant viral load in the mice's brains, lungs, noses, eyes, and windpipes.
While the potential for a new pandemic could be rising here at home, pandemic prevention measures have done a full 180. Oakland's new COVID policy is allowing even students who test positive for the coronavirus to attend classes. As long as the child is asymptomatic, they can go to school, though they are encouraged to wear a mask.
Here to discuss the coronavirus and this potential new mystery disease out of China is Alina Chan, scientific advisor at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard and co-author of Viral, The Search for the Origins of COVID-19. Welcome back to Rising, Alina.
Thanks for having me.
So if it is possible to calm us down, to make us less fearful, please do so. But I know you'll be as honest and blunt as necessary. What is this? Is this study not as bad as it seems? What's going on?
Yes, the wording in this study is a bit unfortunate because the pandemic virus, SARS-CoV-2, also causes 100% of humanized mice to die. So it's not clear, based on this new letter, whether or not the pangolin virus is more concerning than the pandemic virus. But it is yet another example where the public is only learning about risky virus research once it is done and published. That's when the public finds out. So people don't get to find out before the work is done. That is apparently no consultation. And what this means is that if these viruses had not been published, and if they unfortunately leaked from a lab, there would be no way for the public to tell if this was from nature or if it came from a lab, if it had been genetically enhanced. So this is a real concern for the world.
What do we know about the safety protocol and effect at the lab where this study was done? As I understand it, a big part of the negligence with respect to COVID-19 was that the kind of equipment being used at the lab was insufficient for the virality of the virus that was being created.
So just to clarify, this wasn't the Wuhan lab. This was a separate lab in a different part of China. But typically, these types of viruses had been handled at pretty low biosafety, at BSL-2. So at this level, there's almost no tracking of lab escapes. So if you had been infected by a virus like SARS-CoV-2 that has only mild symptoms, there's no way you would have caught that and traced it back to the lab and had an investigation. So this letter that came out about the pangolin virus actually did not state at what level of biosafety the experiments were done. So it could have been low, it could have been high, there's no way to tell. So I think this is yet another reminder that we can't let scientists self-regulate on these sort of experiments, because the benefits are unclear of the study, but the risks are real. So the risk could impact billions of people around the world. So a scientist might act on a dangerous idea at inappropriate biosafety, and unfortunately, billions of people pay the price. So this is yet another reminder that We can't just let scientists do whatever they want.
And as a reminder for viewers, the difference in the kind of lab safety protocols between the U.S. and some labs in China, what has actually been revealed to be a selling has been a selling point for doing the research. We've covered on the show from U.S. Right to Know doing this reporting showing that one of the grants that Eco Health Alliance was trying to get, specifically was persuading the oversight officials that it would be done, the research would be done in the U.S. But there's that note where they're saying, but once we get it approved, we can actually do it in China, where there's less to worry about in terms of oversight.
Yes, so the jump in cost is very dramatic. Between a low biosafety level to a higher biosafety level, it can mean millions of dollars of difference, and also in personnel training. So unfortunately, a lot of research programs nowadays are trying to do as much as possible with as little money as possible. So sometimes this means that biosafety costs are cut. So people make estimates of how risky is this work? Can I get away with doing it at a lower biosafety level? And I think that after the pandemic happens, clearly this is no longer acceptable. I think most virologists even will look at this and think, no, we can't be cutting costs on biosafety. Yeah, most virologists, and probably like, I haven't taken a poll, but I bet 80-90% of people read a headline like this, that this experiment was done, and say, what? We're still doing this kind of thing, and we're not doing it under the be one thing to do it in Antarctica or on the moon or something, but we're doing this in the same kind of potentially at least the same kind of circumstances. Yes, that's right. So these labs, no matter what the biosafety level is, they tend to be located right smack in the middle of a city. So if a scientist unfortunately gets exposed to a virus, gets infected, he doesn't even know that they've been infected. They walk out to like the nearest Starbucks or something, and boom, like the whole city's infected within like a month or two, right? So this could have been what happened in Wuhan in 2019. Unfortunately, is that working with these viruses with unknown pandemic potential, you don't know what symptoms they cause, you don't work with them at the highest biosafety level, and there's no way to track incidents of exposure. And someone just walks out in the middle of the city and boom, all the hospitals, the local market, the train stations that just covered in virus. So I think that we can't keep coming back to this conversation every time there's a new concerning paper. There should be more proactive action being taken to increase oversight globally on this type of research.
Can you speak to what kind of oversight mechanisms are possible here? The article references Chinese scientists. Are they Chinese scientists under the auspices of the Chinese government? Are they American-affiliated scientists in a lab, the way we had with the last pandemic? And what are the implications with respect to oversight if it's one or the other?
So currently, I think that the norm is that each institute decides for themselves really what is appropriate or not. And they also self-govern their own biosafety levels. So there's some responsibility to tell the funders, so people who give them money to do this work, what the safety level is. But at the end of the day, there's no mechanism to enforce, like handing over all your lab records and biosafety incident records should an accident happen. So I would say that, unfortunately, it is kind of like the Wild West. So this is what some of the top research funding agency leaders in the UK and US said, that it is like the Wild West. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what biosafety level at which this work is happening. You only find out later when there might have been a potential mishap.
Lena Chan, thank you so much for joining us. I remain very fearful, but we appreciate your expertise.
Thank you.
Crazy talk, Chak.
Yep, sound like a bunch of malarkey to me. That damn malarkey.
Oh, it is a bunch of malarkey. They working on it, brother. It's down here with me.
VA?
Oh. No, that ain't it. I'll get that later. All right, let's pull this up, man, because there was some wild stuff that went on the other night. This is in the image.
You hear a lot of people talk about keeping up with the Joneses. I don't know about
who was the Green Goblin at the 2023 Emmys. The 2023 Emmy Awards was full of Chanel, Dior, and Versace. The one outfit that had the most attention, the Green Goblin. As for who was willing to work that look at one of the biggest award shows of the season, the honor goes to Princess Poppy from season 15 of RuPaul's Drag Race. Fans were surprised to learn it was Poppy under that mask because at the end of season 15 of RuPaul's Drag Race, the star announced she was retiring from drag. However, that didn't stop her from shutting down the carpet in a glowing green look. At the event, Poppy told Entertainment Weekly the reason for choosing the Goblin outfit, saying, "I wanted to do the exact opposite of what is expected of you when you go to an event like this. I wanted to take decorum and turn it on its head." The Queen joined fellow castmates to honor the reality series that was up for 7 trophies. As for non-scripted television, RuPaul took to the stage once again to accept the award for Outstanding Reality Competition Show, an award that RuPaul's Drag Race has taken home 5 times now.
We are so honored to have this award. Listen, you guys are just pure lovely for honoring our show and recognizing all these queens. We have released into the wild hundreds of drag queens. And they're beautiful, and they're beautiful.
Host RuPaul also won the trophy for Outstanding Host for a reality or competition program and continues to reign as the most awarded host in Emmys history.
And listen, if a drag queen wants to read you a story at a library, listen to her, because knowledge is power. And if someone tries to restrict your access to power, they are trying to scare you. So listen to a drag queen. We love you. Thank you.
The latest award marks the 8th consecutive win for RuPaul, who holds the record for most Emmy wins by a person of color.
Boy, what do you think about that, Shaq?
Yeah, stuff like that. I just black out. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm glad, but I'm glad you blacking it out. That's good. But the point I wanted to play was that it said, if your child is at a school in a library, listen to the drag queen. Knowledge is power, and they trying to scare you. No, they just don't want to know about that nonsense.
They're gonna have to find something else to do.
You say they're gonna have to find something else to do? You're right.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, baka.
Yep.
See your boy trying to elevate himself. He said he trying to get that Oprah Winfrey interview, huh?
Who?
Shannon Sharp?
Man. Of course. Well, All of them want to get on that, They all want that. They call it, like you kind of call it, man, jumping for Cracker Jacks. That's what you call it, right?
What's up?
Jumping for Cracker Jacks.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what they want. The Cracker Jack.
Huh? For some reason, we ain't got over that yet.
I'm just going to go ahead and play this.
Okay.
Welcome back to NBA Countdown. Just some tragic news now. Warriors assistant coach Dejan Milanovic died today after having a heart attack, the team announced. Woj, what more can you tell us about what happened?
Yeah, the Warriors arrived in Salt Lake City yesterday expecting to play the Jazz tonight. They had a team dinner at a restaurant last night, and he suffered the heart attack during the dinner. He was rushed to the hospital, and the entire, I think the Warriors organization spent the evening at the hospital. They were back there early this morning. He passed away today. This is a coach, came to the NBA in 2021 with Steve Kerr, was a top-level player in Serbia and a top-level coach in Serbia, very close to Nikola Jokic, played real significant part in his development as a young player, and not just a devastating blow for the Warriors, but the NBA and really the international basketball community.
Yeah, a pillar in the NBA, a pillar in international basketball as well. Bob, you hired him. You won a championship with him in 2022. What more can you tell us? We've seen the outpouring of support from players around the league about who he was and what he means and meant to this organization.
It hurts. He's it's just hard because when you work with these people, especially for coaches, Malika, people say it, but you see them more than your family. You do. You develop a closeness, and it's just hard because he was this bigger than life person, and he would light up a room, and it's such a loss because he's gone, and I just feel so bad for his children and his wife and the people that work with him and know him and knew him. He left a huge mark on everybody that he crossed paths with, including me. I'm lucky I knew him for the time I did. And it's just life. You hear that news. I walked in here to work and I see it on the ticker, and it just took me back. I knew it had happened, but sometimes there's a shock to it. There's a disbelief. These things happen and you can't process them. But I've talked to some people with the Warriors, and it's hard right now. Yeah. It's really hard. And I know they canceled the game. There was no way they could have played that game. Yeah. And it's just, it's awful. And we're all worse off that he's not going to be here in this world. It's sad.
Our hearts, our thoughts, our condolences with the Milojevic family. He was only 46 years old. Tonight's game between the Utah Jazz and the Golden State Warriors has been postponed.
I mean, you know what? This is interesting. They didn't cancel every other game in the league. Everybody else playing, but they canceled this game. Which I'm not saying yes, no, maybe, but they didn't used to cancel games for things like this. I don't know. But the guy, 46-year-old, he had a heart attack. So what can you say? Chak, you hear me? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm there. Yep.
Another one bites the dust, huh?
Yeah, man. Young man. That's why we got to be. That's what do got to be cheerful, man, and grateful that we made it this far so far. Because a lot of people didn't make it out of 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, yo. You know, so you know,
Yep.
we really truly don't know when your time is gonna be. I try not to stress too much, you know. Things be wearing on my psyche, but shit. That's why I try to laugh, man. Laughter, man, it gives you that good gas, man, that drop down in your soul, man. I try to laugh as much as possible, you know. Well, you say he was 45 years old, 44?
46.
46, yeah, that's young, man. God dang.
All right, now. I got to get into the nitty gritty. You know it's election time, baby. Everybody out. Even Miss Kamala Harris, they done send her out. Yes, sir. The Hindu Brahmin goddess is back. Daggone, I thought everybody went in hibernation for the New Year, Shaq, but they coming back out. Can the church save me? Let me play this nonsense, man. Hold on. South Carolina.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, South Carolina. Good afternoon. Please have a seat. It is so good to be back. It is so good to be back. I want to thank Grace Fellowship Choir for lifting our hearts with your beautiful voices. And I just want to thank all of the leaders who are here for the work that you do every day. To Senator Devine, I thank you for that beautiful introduction. And most of all, for your courageous leadership and, of course, all the history that you make every day. Can we please applaud Senator Devine for her work and her recent election? And to President Murphy and all the leaders of the South Carolina NAACP, thank you for welcoming me today. And of course, it is always an honor to be in the home state of Assistant Leader Jim Clyburn. I do not need to tell South Carolina what a powerful leader he is. And of course, he is one of the closest advisors and friends to President Joe Biden and to me. Today, we celebrate the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a visionary who saw what could be unburdened by what had been, an organizer who moved the minds, the hearts, and the feet of the American people, a leader who dedicated his life and in the end gave his life to advance one of our nation's highest ideals, the ideal of freedom. Freedom is fundamental to the promise of America. Freedom is not to be given. It is not to be bestowed. It is ours by right. And in many ways, the story of America has been a story of our fight to realize that promise. As Dr. King wrote in the letter from Birmingham jail, the goal of America is freedom. And so we gather this afternoon to honor his legacy. And I therefore pose a question that I do believe Dr. King would ask today. In 2024, Where exactly is America in our fight for freedom? How we doing? Well, as Vice President of the United States, I'd say at this moment in America, freedom is under profound threat. Today, in fact, we are witnessing a full-on attack on hard-fought, hard-won freedoms. Consider, in states across our nation, extremists attack the sacred freedom to vote. They pass laws to ban drop boxes, limit early voting, and restrict absentee ballots. In Georgia, extremists had the gall to pass a law to even make it illegal to simply offer food and water to people standing in line for hours to exercise their basic civic duty. I ask the friends, whatever happened to love thy neighbor? The hypocrisy abounds. And please note, the governor in Georgia signed that law on the 56th anniversary of the march from Selma to Montgomery. Today, in states across our nation, extremists propose and pass laws to attack a woman's freedom to make decisions about her own body.
There you go again.
Laws that would even make no exception for rape and incest. And let us all agree, one does not have to abandon their faith and deeply held beliefs to agree. The government should not be telling her what to do with her body. Freedom. Every person in our nation has a right to live safe and to live free from the horror of gun violence. And yet today, these so-called leaders stand by and refuse to pass reasonable gun safety laws to help protect our children and places of worship. Every person in our nation has a right to be who they are and love who they love openly and with pride. And yet, this past year, extremists have proposed or passed hundreds of laws targeting LGBTQ people. Every person in our nation has a right to be free to learn and acknowledge our country's true and full history. And yet today, extremists pass book bans. Book bans in this year of our Lord 2024.
Now hold on, man. Let me stop this thing, man. Chak, she done heard we use the word extremists at least 5 times, man. What's wrong with this? Hey, Dawson, we were talking about all this new disease with the mice, disease X, the World Economic Forum on free speech too. So we covered all that. But hey, man, what do you think about this, Chak? She used the word extremists a lot. What do you think about that, man?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, she would know because she working for him. Shit, she working for the biggest extremist organization, the Democratic Party. Huh?
She calling you the extremist. This year of our Lord, that's right.
I don't write policies. I don't write laws. I mean, I'm not out there forcing somebody to do something they don't want. I'm not going to other countries and shit and telling people that they gotta get down with LGBT and you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to do that, but they are. She's doing that. She's going into other people's land, other people's culture, and trying to intimidate them to be. Yeah.
Preaching that abortion thing, you know? Man, she tough. I gotta give it to her.
She's describing the streamers, but shit, look who the streamers is.
She need to flip. Hey, can't see stone shack when you're living on a glass house.
Sure.
Yep, but let the clown continue. She doing a good job right now.
And then they even try to erase, overlook, and rewrite the ugly parts of our past. For example, the Civil War, which, must I really have to say, was about slavery? All the while, they tell our children that enslaved people benefited from slavery. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, in an attempt to divide and distract our nation with unnecessary debates.
Our democracy
Oh, there you go.
really does.
Barack
folks.
Obama.
It's no joke.
With that commercial.
That's why we need you. We need your help to ensure Joe's leadership continues to guide us forward. We know the other side won't rest, so we can't either. Your donation will help give Joe and Kamala's campaign the resources it needs.
Let's make history again. Chip in now. Let's secure a brighter future together.
Whoa. Why we got to keep donating to these rich people? I'm trying to understand that.
It said actblue.com, man. Hold on, man. It said donate to ActBlue. Hey, man. Give them that money, Shaq. Nah, I'm joking. That's a clown show shit, man. I gotta say, that's a clown show shit. But hey, they ain't telling you they want you to vote for them. You know, it's coming around again. Come on.
Fundamental freedoms under assault. Freedom from fear, violence, and harm. Freedom to vote, to live, to learn, to control one's own body. And the freedom to simply be. And understand the profound impact these attacks have had on the next generation of leaders. So many of our young leaders are here this afternoon. This past fall, I met with more than 15,000 young leaders in my Fight for Our Freedoms college tour, including at the College of Charleston. From our young leaders, I heard that the assault on freedoms, well, it's a lived experience. It's not just hypothetical. Think about it. During the height of their reproductive years, this generation has witnessed the highest court in our land, the court of Thurgood, take a constitutional right that had been recognized from the people of America, from the women of America. This generation now has fewer rights than their mothers and grandmothers.
Hold on, what was the constitutional right?
That from
the constitutional right to have an abortion. That's what she's talking about. God damn it.
That one, that's what word. Show me what amendment of the Constitution says that. I'll wait.
It ain't one.
It ain't one. First one, they should have never ruled on it. The Supreme Court should have never ruled on no damn abortion shit. That should have, you know what I'm saying? That had nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, well, I mean, the woman, you know, she gonna lie, but
Right.
But let the
Just listen.
going. She can run it up.
Kindergarten to 12th grade, this young generation has had to endure active shooter drills. Our children, who should be in a classroom fulfilling their God-given potential to explore the beauty of the world, and instead have to worry that someone might bust through their classroom door with a gun. And when students go to vote, they often have to wait in line for hours because of laws that intentionally make it more difficult for them to cast a ballot. It is not hypothetical. But even though our young leaders are clear-eyed about these challenges, I will share with you, they will not be discouraged. They will not be deterred. Standing on the shoulders of the generations who came before, our young leaders are prepared and ready for this fight, as are we. 6 decades ago, from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, Dr. King spoke to our nation, to the thousands of Americans who had marched that day on Washington, and he spoke of what he called a promissory note, a check that had been signed to the American people in the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. Dr. King's voice rang out when he, quote, said, "We refuse to believe that the bank of justice is bankrupt. So we've come to cash this check," he said, "a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice." And of course, less than a year later, because of the movement that Dr. King and so many other great American leaders helped to build and sustain, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was signed, and in the decades since, inspired by the power and the purpose of that movement, together we have won many victories to make our nation more free, more equal, and more just. From the passage of the Voting Rights Act to, yes, Senator, to the appointment of the first Black woman to serve on the highest court in our land. So if he were here, I think Dr. King would be the first to say that, yes, we have come far. And though we have come far, in this moment, it is up to us to continue that fight, to cash that promissory note. And like Dr. King, even through the struggles and the setbacks, even during the pain and the heartbreak, even when our feet grow weary and our legs grow tired, we will march forward for freedom. Because I do believe the true power behind the promise of America is in the faith of her people. The promise of America, I do believe, is in the faith of the people. Our faith in the founding principles of our nation and our profound commitment to make those principles real. Generation after generation, on the fields of Gettysburg, in the schools of Little Rock, on the grounds of this State House, on the streets of Ferguson, and on the floor of the Tennessee House of Representatives, we the people have always fought to make the promise of freedom real. And so today, we must do so once again. The great Coretta Scott King once said, "Freedom is never truly won. You earn it and win it in every generation." And at this moment in history, in the relay race of history, I say then, let us not throw up our hands, because it's time to roll up our sleeves. And we were born for a time such as this. And so with faith, with hope, and optimism, we will fight. And when we fight, we win. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
All right, clown show's over. A lot of things you said in there talking about all this abortion, all this stuff. I'm just trying to find out who is stopping a woman what to do with her own body, all this other nonsense she's saying. But this is a narrative they're gonna be putting out there for the next 10 months. So
cool.
Very interesting.
But look, in the same memory, in the vein of this lady, what's the lady from Harvard that just got
Claudine
resigned? Okay. What I said. These motherfuckers don't do nothing but what? They don't do nothing but regurgitate what somebody else said. That whole shit up, why they always regurgitate? Why they all? That's what we call that? What they call that?
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism. What her words at? See, that's what I'm saying. These people are not intelligent as they think they are, dude. They sit up here and say something and regurgitate what other people say. What is her words? Everything she was phrases that she heard that's cliche phrases that's out there. You know what I'm saying? Nothing that had any substance in it. You talked about streaming. You talked about democracy. Y'all talking about, they say democracy. What is democracy? Tell people what democracy is. Tell people where in the Constitution that it says about it. Since you're talking about constitutional, where in the Constitution that it says anything about a goddamn democracy? I'll wait. I will wait. She just said into the republic, and they say into no democracy. She even just said it our own words. Into the republic. So where's the democracy coming from? Or who is the democracy? How do I join up for this democracy? How do we vote them in and vote them out? Huh? I'm trying to understand, dog. A bunch of nothing burgers, G. Now, she ain't say nothing that they was going to do for the people in South Carolina, for the melanated people that she claimed that we was enslaved. They ain't saying we're going to give y'all some, we're gonna make sure y'all got funding for, your children got funding for schooling. We're going to make sure y'all got school choice so y'all can get an advocate. Huh?
She said Martin Luther King said something about a promise. I heard her say that.
Okay, man. I'm tired of them nothing burgers, G. That's just broad and ambiguous. And that's all they try to be, broad and ambiguous. They never tell you, they never say nothing with substance, though. The people out there, man, people with rent is high. We got chemical warfare going on. Y'all allowing these companies to come in and still sell food to our young people. Why y'all ain't addressing that? That's what y'all need to be talking about. Fixing infrastructure. Really fixing this abomination stuff that y'all allowing to go on inside these borders we call America.
Wait a minute. You know what? I'm gonna play these last two topics, and I'm gonna talk about that food thing because I was talking to somebody about it today, right? And you know what we talked about?
What's that?
The dangers of high fructose corn syrup. So I gotta get that in there. I'm gonna make the special thing for that. Because there's a lot of people that's getting screwed up right now. Let me play this clip of these two things, and then we're gonna talk about that. Because I gotta get that. I gotta bring that in before I close up.
So as I told you before, because it is the start of primary season, it is officially started with the Iowa caucuses. Was the anti-Christ Trump derangement, quote, poison
million poisoning the bloodstream. Afternoon, a great lie is doing its work, poisoning the bloodstream of our democracy. A former president refuses to acknowledge that he lost, and he has convinced millions that our elections and our democracy no longer work. He threatens the foundations of our nation and everything Dr. King persevered to save. If given the chance, this former president's allies in Congress will once again ignore the rulings of our nation's courts, the outcome of our elections, and the words of our Constitution. As they claim for themselves the right to throw out the votes of millions of Americans and install their former leader as our president, we must not let them prevail.
There's no war now.
And my friends, faith communities have a particular obligation this election year. There are churches across our nation where ministers preach from the pulpits in adoration of this former president. There are pastors who seem to have forgotten the first commandment. And they are openly embracing an immoral, unstable, and depraved man who threatens violence and death, who attacks the rule of law, and who says he can terminate our Constitution. All
Stop that.
people.
I can't let it go on. Hold on. Stop that. What she just say? The first what? What'd she say? The first what? The first commandments.
Yeah. That's what
Immoral.
yeah.
Immoral. And you telling me you to promote that a man transition himself into a woman is not immoral? A man going into a female's bathroom, a male going into a female's bathroom and exposing himself or whatever into a female's bathroom and vice versa. A male going into a female's sport. Hold on. I thought domestic violence was such a
Her daddy shot somebody on a 100 trip, man. Shoot. Her daddy immoral. He shot somebody on a 100 trip. Shit.
Yeah, man, I don't want to hear no more coming out these people out when they telling young kids that should get their sex parts, allegedly get their dysphoria, get their sex parts cut off, and then they got to be on medicine. Why they ain't telling people the harsh truths of this trying to be this other gender? All the chemicals, all the medicine you got to take, and your body is not designed to take all those different medications, dog. Prescription. This is what it is. Tell the harsh truth. Yeah, man.
Can I say this? Let me bring this
Mm-hmm.
up. Her daddy shot somebody on a 100 trip. He immoral. Shit.
Right.
So what is she talking about, man? This is funny, man. But she up in the pulpit. She talking about Martin Luther King. I said, look at that lady in the purple behind her. Wave your hands like you just don't care. I'm like, come on, man, cut it out, man. Y'all, this is shameful. But let me keep going.
Yeah, you keep going.
People of goodwill in this nation, regardless of race, religion, political affiliation, regardless of anything else that might divide us, must stand together against this.
Yeah, so you see, now you heard that. Now, this comes after Fannie.
Boy, they hit the churches up, Shaq. Can the saints come marching in? Boy, they getting good. Thanks, man. This gonna be the best clown show of the year, man. But nevertheless, you see what you're up against. You got Kamala, you got a so-called Republican, Liz Cheney, who daddy shot somebody on a 100 trip and got a heart transplant, by the way. Dick Cheney, warmonger. And that's where it's going. Also, you got the Republican lady Stefanik. She's in trouble now because she said that she called people who were in prison for January 6th hostages, and now they want to censor her or something like that, censure her in Congress, and disavow her for saying that people who got locked up for January 6th are hostages. So you got a mess going on. It's wild. Something to say. But it is what it is. That's what we're up against right now, Shaq. Daggone. Me and you are the extremists, and they're not. Is that fair? All right, Shaq. I got to talk about it, baby. Okay. That might be a little bit too long. Let's just, well, let's just go ahead with this one. It's a while back, but fuck it. Who cares?
Consider that New Year's resolutions are not the answer for you this year. You need real solutions. And
high fructose corn syrup has crept into our food supply over the last few decades. Now, compared to regular sugar, it's cheaper, it's sweeter, and it's absorbed much more quickly by the body. Fructose was initially thought to be a better choice for diabetics due to its low glycemic. However, high fructose corn syrup and high fructose in the diet leads to insulin resistance, to obesity, to type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure. You see, only your liver cells can process fructose, and that's where the problems begin. Fructose goes straight to your liver, and it starts a fat production factory, and it triggers the production of triglycerides and cholesterol. It actually is the sugar that causes the most trouble for your cholesterol, not the fat. Even worse, high doses of fructose punch little holes in your intestinal lining, causing what we call a leaky gut. And that allows foreign food proteins and bacterial proteins to enter into your bloodstream. And what that does is it triggers inflammation, which then makes you gain weight and causes type 2 diabetes. Studies show that high fructose corn syrup increases your appetite and it promotes obesity more than regular sugar. Now, high fructose corn syrup also contributes to diabetes, inflammation, high triglycerides, and something we call non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And it increases all the fat in the liver, which now affects over 90 million Americans. It can even cause fibrosis or what we call cirrhosis. In fact, sugar in our diet is now the major cause of liver failure. And that makes sugar the leading cause of liver transplants. So should you stay away from everything fructose? Well, you should as much as possible, but fruit is the exception. Fruit has fructose, but it's naturally occurring, and it doesn't have the same effects as high fructose corn syrup. It's packaged with fiber and vitamins and minerals and all sorts of healing nutrients. So unless you eat massive amounts of fruit, fructose should not be a problem. Now, high fructose corn syrup represents more than 40% of the caloric sweeteners added to our foods and beverages. If you find the word high fructose corn syrup or the new term corn sugar on a label, stay away if you want to be healthy. It's a sign of very poor quality food. The easiest way to completely avoid high fructose corn syrup is to eat real, whole, unprocessed foods. Now, if you have to buy packaged foods, I want you to read the labels carefully to identify sugar in other disguises. Sugar is hidden in over 80% of the 600,000 processed foods on the market. But beware, it's disguised with over 200 different names, things like maltodextrin and other things you wouldn't recognize. Now, if you can't pronounce it, or you don't recognize the ingredient, or you wouldn't add it to food that you cooked yourself in your kitchen, then don't eat it.
All right, Shaq, what do you think about that, man? The dangers of high fructose corn syrup, fibrosis, all the things we always talk about. What do you think, man? Shaq, what do you think about that, man?
Talking like a nerd, boy. I said, yeah. Did you know that they spray that stuff on everything they sprayed on your frozen French fries? Some of your frozen French fries got that sprayed on them.
Hey, look, man.
Hmm?
That's the way you daggone cause everybody to be sick. So let me ask you a question, man. Is the American population becoming a walking drugstore?
What you think?
Gotta go in the medicine cabinet, bro.
They trying to. They say they putting everything. Take this pill here. Everything in the pill. Damn. But you take double back to that leaky gut too. Something else they call leaky gut too. Those prescription medicines, those pills, those white pills, those hard white pills, those powder chalky pills. If you look it up what's the process of them making those pills, which is dry, has no liquid water in it. We shouldn't be eating a lot of dry stuff at a large number because we're not dry people. We need stuff with liquid in it. You know what I'm saying? Water-based products, food. But it tears up the lining of your stomach. It can cause leaky gut too. It's called microcrystalline. You can look that up and put it on the screen for the people. Microcrystalline. What's the process of how they process and these pills?
All right.
Prescription pills. Whenever you get a chance.
I'm gonna do that last. I just pulled up this thing. What are the side effects of radiation treatment? So the side effects of radiation, the same thing as radiation, right?
Right.
I mean, that's common sense. I mean, come on. But
my name is Dr. Simon Funkifung. I'm a radiation oncologist at Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center. Oftentimes when I'm meeting with a new patient who are candidates for radiation as part of their cancer treatments, questions that often come up are surrounding side effects related to radiation treatments. To understand the side effects related to radiation, one has to understand also that radiation is similar to a beam of light or beam of energy that is targeted or directed at the site of cancer. Side effects of radiation treatment are often in the area where the cancer is located. Side effects from radiation can be categorized into two categories mainly: short-term or acute side effects that often develop during the course of radiation treatment, and chronic or long-term side effects, which can occur weeks or even months after the radiation treatments are completed. One of the most common side effects that patients experience during the course of radiation treatments is fatigue. Other types of side effects can be in the areas where the cancer is located. For example, in the chest or in the breast, side effects may be in the skin or in the lungs themselves. Radiation to cancers in the abdomen or pelvis could cause side effects such as nausea or vomiting, diarrhea, or constipation. The types of side effects are common in the areas of the body that are being treated. The frequency or the likelihood, as well as the severity of treatments, are oftentimes dependent on the amount of radiation being received, whether there's additional treatments being given at the same time, such as chemotherapy, as well as a patient's general health otherwise. That's why it's very important for patients to discuss side effects that are unique to them with their treatment team. Some long-term side effects that are a result of radiation can be related to formation of fibrosis or scar tissue in the areas that were treated. In the chest, that can make the skin feel thicker, breast tissue feel a little bit more firm. In the lung, there can be scarring that can affect breathing. In the abdomen or pelvis, scar tissue can make or affect some of the function of the organs in the area that were treated with radiation treatments. The likelihood or severity of these symptoms or side effects are usually infrequent, but again, may be dependent on the amount of radiation received, as well as any difficulties or problems that these organs or areas may have been experiencing prior to radiation treatments. Your treatment team or your radiation oncology team would be best able to describe the likelihood and or the severity of these side effects, which can be chronic or long-term. At Roswell Park consideration of the risk or likelihood of side effects starts from the time that we meet you, the patient, in consultation. When we make recommendations about the number of treatments or the amount of radiation, side effects are a consideration in that decision-making process. We have a predefined set of dose constraints or constraints of how much radiation is safe to be delivered. And we always strive to meet or beat these dose constraints in each individual patient. Sometimes certain positions for the radiation treatment themselves may result in lower side effects experienced during or even after the course of radiation. My name is Dr. Simon Fung. I'm a radiation oncologist.
Crazy stuff, Shaq.
If somebody needs to go for radiotherapy, no appetite, wow, your family very concerned. I jia hamid lah, I bay hamid lah, macai chu hamid lah.
All right, what's that thing you talking about now? What's the word?
Look up microcrystalline. Microcrystalline.
Microcrystalline cellulose?
I think so.
Oh yeah, it's like a powder, right? Yeah, I seen it. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a part. Yeah. That's the process how they get these pills and shit. How they make these pills, man. A lot of times that shit has no substance in it.
Welcome to LFA's video on microcrystalline cellulose. Microcrystalline cellulose, often referred to as MCC, is refined wood pulp produced in a controlled environment. It's a white powder that doesn't have any taste or smell. MCC is an inert substance, meaning it's chemically inactive and will not react with any other ingredients. It's commonly used as a bulking agent, binder, glidant, disintegrant, and an auxiliary suspending agent. It is considered to be one of the most versatile excipients. MCC is a great excipient for both tablet production and capsule production. The main advantages of microcrystalline cellulose. MCC has excellent compressibility properties. It will increase the compressibility of your formulation. It also helps with the flow, allowing formulations to move smoothly through machinery, ensuring consistent tablet weights. MCC is an excellent binder to help tablets stay together, avoiding fragile tablets, whilst it also can be used as a filler, which is needed when your doses of active are very low, as well as being odorless, tasteless, and non-reactive. MCC has a low bulk density, which will lead to higher dilution and packing density. Microcrystalline cellulose is the most common binding agent used to manufacture solid dose foods and pharmaceuticals. This is due to the compatibility and strength when turned into a tablet, whilst also dissolving easily when digested. It also acts as a great bulking agent if you need to increase the weight of your tablet a little more. It's used as a disintegrant in formulations and speeds up formed tablets deterioration, allowing your active to work faster. Microcrystalline cellulose is directly compressible, meaning it can be pressed into a tablet directly without any other ingredient. A huge benefit to this is that it does not have to be granulated, which makes the tableting process more streamlined and efficient. MCC is safe to consume in normal quantities and is widely used as an excipient for its all-round versatility. LFA does sell microcrystalline cellulose in a selection of weights. Please see the link in the description below. For more information, products and guides, please visit www.lfatabletpresses.com.
So that's how they make this stuff, huh? Shows pretty much it right there. That's pretty much, shows you a lot of stuff that's going on, Shaq. That's what it showed me.
Yeah, so like I said, most of them prescription pills, man, are just fillers, man. Them shits ain't, they fillers, y'all. Especially the cheap ones you get. You know what I'm saying? Them things are fillers, man. I don't, your kidneys can't filter that stuff, man. Especially you taking in so much, large quantities, man, and for a long period of time.
Yep, you're right. All right, let me play this. Be prepared. Get your vitamins, Chak. Get your vitamins and minerals.
They told us to follow our dreams, then said they were unrealistic because passions don't pay bills. But what they didn't know is that dreamers make their own victory.
Welcome back. COVID, the flu, and RSV are making the rounds once again. Odds are you probably know someone with a cough or sniffle, or maybe they're on the mend. The viruses show no signs of slowing, and it doesn't help that the majority of folks aren't getting the vaccines to prevent them. Science and health correspondent Lindsay Thies has more.
Now, these different respiratory illnesses that are circulating, this is really the season for it. It's not a surprise for public health experts, and your risk is going to depend on your own personal health and vaccination status.
Didn't think that I was going to test positive, but that was the biggest shock of the whole thing.
Sarah Fryman recently got COVID for a second time. She joined thousands of others in the surge of respiratory cases, including COVID-19, the flu, or RSV across the country. The bugs are more common this time of year.
Somebody walked in for a COVID test, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a positive. We had to look. I'm like, we haven't seen that in like 6-7 months.
As we enter the winter months, people are spending more time indoors, and we tend to see an increase in respiratory infections.
The CDC's latest data shows as of December 29th, respiratory illness activity was high or very high in 2/3 of the United States, stretching from New Hampshire to Washington state. Holiday travel is also a factor in the spread.
What happens in Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's is that when people get together, you mix the risk from one part of the country to the next.
Vaccines can keep someone who is sick from getting a severe case or dying, but CDC data shows only about 40% of adults and children have gotten this year's flu shot, and less than 20% have gotten the latest COVID vaccine. Experts say it's still not too late to get vaccinated and to watch out for symptoms like fever, cold, and cough. And if you do get sick, they say to stay at home and call your doctor in case there's medicine you could take to help speed up your recovery. Lindsay Thies, Scripps News, San Francisco.
Here now to share some practical advice on what you can do to get through this triple threat of viruses. Let's bring in Dr. Omar Awan. He's a physician as well as a healthcare contributor at Forbes.com. Doctor, thanks for joining us tonight. Let's start where our correspondent left off. We all know that vaccination rates are low for the season across the country. In fact, the CDC conducted a survey to find out among those eligible how many of them intended to get vaccinated. And for the week ending December 23rd, 39% say they probably or definitely would not be getting the COVID vaccine. 30% said the same about the flu and RSV shots. What's going on here? Can you call it vaccine fatigue, or is there a little more to it?
I think it's a combination of both, Chris. I mean, I think, first of all, there's a lot of fatigue given the fact that, COVID occurred 4 years ago and people got the initial shot, but now people are somewhat reluctant, or there has been some vaccine hesitancy amongst the general public. And, quite frankly, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Many Americans believe that vaccines can cause harm. Many feel that their children can get autism from vaccines. And we, of course, know that's not true. Vaccines are overall very safe. They're the best line of defense to prevent severe illness, hospitalization, and death. And we know, globally, vaccines have saved millions of lives. So certainly it's not too late to get the vaccine. If you're eligible to get the COVID vaccine and the RSV vaccine, please go ahead and do so to prevent severe illness and potentially going to the hospital.
And with all these viruses going on, would now be a good time to start masking up again?
I think what masks add an extra layer of protection. So particularly if you're going into high populated areas, if you are going to be around those that are high risk for infection, masks allow you to protect yourself and, more importantly, protect others that can't protect themselves. So those who are immunocompromised, meaning those who have cancer, those who are on steroid therapy, those who are recipients of organ transplants, they often have a weakened immune system. And by wearing a mask, you're actually protecting them from potentially getting infected. So masks just add another layer of protection against the virus.
Yeah, a good perspective there. Doctor, what are the main differences between the flu and COVID? I know we've talked about this before in recent years, but we want to talk about that again, just to give folks a reminder. And are at-home flu tests easy to come by these days?
So they're actually very similar, Chris. I mean, the symptoms are, fever, cough, runny nose, sore throat. There can be some variability in the symptoms. So, for example, sometimes COVID can result in loss of taste, but really they present very similarly. And that's why it's so important to get tested, because, RSV, flu, and COVID all present very similarly. So, we often don't know, and physicians don't know what a patient has unless they get tested. So very important to get tested. The Biden administration has allowed for 4 free COVID tests per family. So relatively easy to get. The flu testing can be a little bit more challenging, but certainly, most healthcare facilities have it. But the bottom line is that if you have any of these symptoms, especially now when respiratory illnesses are surging, very important to get tested.
And when it comes to treatments, we've heard of Tamiflu for the flu and Paxlovid for COVID. Are these still the 2 main medications that people could be, reaching for if they need it?
They are the main therapies, definitely, for, especially if you have recent infection. Very important to take these medications within 5 to 7 days of symptom onset. So, Paxlovid and certainly Tamiflu can help prevent severe infection and prevent you from going to the hospital. Now, you still are going to have the infection and you still may show symptoms, but certainly it can decrease or tame the level of symptoms that you have. So certainly very important, particularly in those who are most vulnerable.
And hospital data shows that those 65 and up are being admitted for flu and COVID at higher rates than any other age group. It's the same thing for young kids under the age of 4 being admitted for RSV. Break that down for us. Why is that happening?
Well, those, Chris, are the ones that are the most vulnerable to get infected. Kids often have weakened immune systems to begin with. It takes time, remember, to develop your immune system, to be exposed to certain viruses and pathogens so that eventually your immune system develops further. And those that are older often have chronic conditions. Remember, things like lung disease, heart disease. They may have a history of cancer. They may be immunosuppressed, meaning their immune system weakens with time. So those patients are going to be most vulnerable to get infected. And that's why we see, many of these people ending up in the hospital. So remember that if you're in the prime of your age, in your 30s and 40s, you often don't have a weakened immune system. And that's why, we're seeing less of those type of patients in the hospital. But certainly possible for all age groups to develop COVID, the flu, RSV, and certainly.
Well, AI, I'd say that, it's going to raise productivity generally, and normal capital markets with great competition from Microsoft and Google will drive that. And you should all pay attention because it is so dramatic how it improves white collar productivity. And later with the robotics, not yet, but eventually blue collar productivity. So that is phenomenal for the world. The world will be richer and, can work less and have more. The place where it's with equity, and we have a huge commitment to make sure there's not this normal 20-year lag between benefit to the rich versus to developing countries, is that there's a bigger teacher shortage in Africa than elsewhere, a bigger doctor shortage. And so not only will we invent new tools using AI, like the ultrasound, we will provide health advice and directly, in their local African language fully tailored to the conditions in those countries. We will provide an AI doctor. We will provide an AI tutor. And already we've funded lots of Africans to do pilot studies and to take the very best technology and get it out at about the same time as it'll happen in the rich world. In fact, in a few cases, rich world regulations may make it roll out slower than in countries like India or in Africa. So it's a race, but it's a race for good. And, I couldn't be more thrilled. It's a case where my ongoing work with Microsoft, helps me understand how we take this into the developing countries.
So, but overall, you're net positive on AI in general, globally.
AI,
for everything.
AI is a brilliant tool for people to be more productive. Now, it means the bad guys will be more productive, so they can do more cyber attacks, so they can design weapons. You always, the internet, the microprocessor, all these things helped everybody be more efficient, including the bad guys. And so you've got to make sure the best AI for cyber defense or measures to defend against bioterrorism are in the hand of the good guys. And it's a challenge, but people sometimes lose sight of the fact that this is the biggest productivity advance in our lifetimes.
Well. The Gates is back. Chak, I think some people don't know what's going on, brother. But it's okay. We better get together because they got some devious plots ahead.
Say it again.
We got some devious plots ahead for you.
Oh, they don't stop, baby, 24/7, man. While we on vacation and we taking weekends off and stuff, hey, these mother suckers, boy, they 365, baby. 7 days a week. Huh?
They're taking weekends off too. Advising how to kill your ass. But shit. Hey man. That's the way the ball bounces, brother. But like I said, it's been interesting. Yeah, I told you I had to cover that thing, that some things I ain't covered last night, cover that thing with the mice and all that and the disease and all that. So with that being said, charge the information, brother.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure to jump on with you, dog. Drop some of this fire for the heat. Yeah, man. I can check me out on Instagram, man. Tap in with me, Shaq_Edwards on Instagram, CHAQ_EDWARDS. Spelt the same way on Facebook, Shaq Edwards on Facebook. Same thing, dog. Tap in with your boy, man.
All right, look, I got an announcement to make, brother. All right, hold tight. Well, let me just shout out information. 98% BJ1 Twitter, Bernard1121 Instagram, Bernard Johnson Facebook. You can also get me at kingbjmedia.com. I think 1987 BJ is another Instagram page they got. And kingbjfitness.com. Now check this out. Me and Shaq can do another show in a couple of days, a week or whatever. All right, Shaq. Gotta remind me before I forget. We're gonna talk about a lot of things, like always. I gotta break down a lot of stuff at one time. But here's the problem. Here's the deal. We got to talk about the consequences of the Bussy Chronicles. The deadly consequences of Bussy Chronicles.
Oh yeah,
there's a whole lot of diseases out here not being talked about, and it's killing people.
Yep, the saga continues, man.
Yes, sir. But go ahead, brother. Take your time. Give you a holler.
All right.
All right, take your time.
Yep.